Hi everyone. As of this month till probably late May, I'm gonna be on hiatus. I am moving to Europe with my husband, uh, for his job. So there's a lot I have to do during that period, and I'm not gonna be able to really do much dev work. I'm still gonna be posting some of the art I like on my alt or on my YouTube of like the Steven Universe stuff that I've been drawing, just because it's quick and easy to do. Um, but at a certain point, my stuff's gonna be packed up and on an airplane, and in transit, where I will not be able to use my drawing tablet. But yeah, I don't know. I think I wanted to use this time to reflect on things a bit. For people who've been watching my YouTube videos about everything that happened in 2025, they know that was a wild year. For anybody who's been keeping up with this project with One Way Lane since it started, they know I've had a wild life. But I think I'm in my sort of golden age. I can certainly say this is the happiest time I've ever had in my life. And happiness has definitely been a struggle to achieve and maintain my whole life. For those who don't know the background of One Way Lane or me or anything, I had a pretty awful childhood. I was out the house when I was 17 and living with some adult dude who did a lot of gross things to me, but I still managed to, complete high school. I had a few suicide attempts during this. When I hit 19, I had a third suicide attempt that put me in a coma. It was pretty serious. I had 2 tonic-clonic seizures and it put me in a coma. And miraculously, I lived. And I woke up after a few days. And when I woke up, it appeared that everybody I loved was just gone. The way that it was constructed before me by some individuals who had less than good intentions was that I was completely alone and everyone abandoned me. Some people, in my opinion, did abandon me. Not everyone, though. But I didn't know that until last year. And after I woke up from that coma, I had to relearn a lot of things. One of the big ones was art. And to sort of vent my frustrations with my life and find a way that I could get back to doing art regularly, I started One Way Lane. And that's how my game got started. In 2025, I had to get a restraining order against my mom after she was harassing me online and in person, like showing up to my job, getting in my car. It was a very scary time, but I think I got myself away from a lot of really bad situations and people and actually got to start working on healing the stuff that I grew up with and addressing everything I went through when I was 19. Because, that's a lot to go through. I'm 23. And I have way too much lore for a normal person. I know after all that, in late 2025, or mid to late 2025, is when I met my husband. My best friend, my gentle giant. I still remember our first date because we had met on a dating app, and I didn't look at his height. I don't typically look at the height portion of that. And I remember when I was waiting for him for our first date, it was at a hot pot thing. I remember I was waiting for him, and I saw him coming up the escalator, and I just remember going, oh my gosh, there's more of him, because my husband is 6'5", and I am 5'4", so it was definitely, it was funny. I thought it was really funny. I think I want to give a piece of advice here to anybody else who keeps up with my stuff and my art, who's also been through a lot, and to young people. I think when you've gone through a lot of things like that, you don't need to go looking for love. You need to go look for yourself. Sometimes you don't need to look out a window. You need to look in the mirror. Sometimes you need to just do that as your main mode of function, honestly. Don't go looking for someone to heal you. Heal yourself and give yourself the life that you deserve. That's my word of advice. I know my life has just been so much better. I get to engage in my hobbies, in my creative passions, and I get to do it every day with my best friend. And I think I can confidently say if I didn't go through all the stuff I did of working on myself and looking in the mirror, that I wouldn't have this beautiful relationship that I have now. I have a bright future ahead. I have a very happy future ahead. I don't think I have ever felt this level of calm and happiness and joy ever in my life. Not because of this one person, but because of the work I've done and the people I've gotten away from, as well as very nice, polite, and patient company. I was going to reflect on post waking up from that coma, as a lot of you may already know from my uploads on my alt accounts and now my YouTube of the Steven Universe designs, or the fusion designs. I'm a very big fan of Steven Universe. I have been since I was 11 years old, and a big movie that I just watched on repeat after my coma was the Steven Universe movie with the title protagonists, or not title, the main protagonist, Spinell. And I think there's a lot to take from that movie, even if some people see it as just a kid's show or a kid's movie or something silly. I think there's a lot you can take from the Steven Universe movie with Spinell, who was a character abandoned for 6,000 years all alone in a garden before she finally found out the person she's been waiting for the whole time doesn't even exist anymore. Like, she stood in that garden so long, roots grew around her feet and legs and rooted her to the ground. I think I'll just directly read a quote here from Rebecca Sugar about this character who taught me a lot. She said, talking about Spinell, Rebecca has stated that the thing about her is that she's a really toxic person. She's so toxic that she's literally trying to poison people. In my interactions with friends who have had a history difficult enough to make it hard for them to trust other people and sometimes even actively want to hurt others, it's just a very difficult situation to navigate. In the case of Spinell and all of these characters, that's extremely exaggerated because cartoons have the ability to be extreme exaggerations. I wanted to explore what it's like when you're trying to help someone who really doesn't want to help themselves, who wants to embody that negative feeling that they have about themselves. I think that's something that's really real. Sorry, I keep messing up my words. I hadn't seen that in a cartoon before. Spinell, unlike many other characters, actually has a goal of hurting people, which is new territory for the show. She really wants to hurt Steven, and there's a reason that she does. It's because she's in so much pain. I just want to explore all the dimensions of that. After my coma, when it was just me, when I say like everyone was gone, I mean everyone was gone. I almost froze to death after my coma. I had pneumonia from being in a coma and laying in a bed for days on end. And it was in December, and a horrible snowstorm hit, and I almost froze to death in my house because I had an old ass apartment with a floor furnace that went out, and I thought, wow, I really survived a suicide attempt, 2 seizures, and a coma to freeze to death alone in my house. What a world. But after that coma, I got wrapped up with some really bad people. And I didn't know immediately that they were bad people. I just knew they were all very hurt people, and I was a very hurt person, and we could all complain about being hurt together. And I remember seeing how they would hurt others because they were hurt, and like it was steadily escalating. It starts out with like making rude comments about people you don't like. It starts out with venting rude frustrations to people, whether they deserve it or not. Just saying the worst thing imaginable because somebody hurt you. And I remember watching this movie and watching this go down in real life and just thinking, why are we continuing this cycle of hurt? You can go through a lot of things, and some people just do nothing about it. Some people wallow. Some people get out of it, or it ends, or it never does, and they start hurting other people to deal with the fact that they are in so much pain. And some people go through all of that and decide, I will not do anything to become like the people who hurt me, or I don't want this cycle to continue anymore. I want to do something positive. I want to be happy. I don't want to be this state forever, and I don't want to be a source of negativity in the world. And that movie really demonstrated to me, like, all that really takes is some change. And to see these people actively around me want to hurt people and trying to ebb me into their mindset, which, for a bit, honestly, I won't lie, they did ebb me into it. It was, you sit in a call with friends and you just vent about the people who hurt you, or you vent about how the world's unfair, but it doesn't really do anything. You're just kind of being negative and saying the worst things imaginable about the people that hurt you the most, but it wasn't really accomplishing anything but replaying it over and over. And I saw these people slowly become people who wanted to inflict the hurt, and I had to distance myself. One of them actually ended up kind of stalking me, and it was really scary. And I didn't tell anybody at the time because I felt like nobody would care and it wouldn't even matter. And then I met my girlfriend at the time. She's amazing. I don't know where she's at anymore in life, but I always hope that she's doing well. And I had started a one-way lane as a concept, but that's when I really got to expand into it. And I just look back now at, if I hadn't learned those lessons, would I have even put in the effort to continue one-way lane? Would I be where I'm at with my husband? Anything like that? Or would I just become another bad person doing bad things because bad things happened to me? And I think I reflect on that a lot this year. I reflect on all the things that have happened to me. So while I'm in a joyous position, I'm also in a position where I can think and meditate on the things that have happened to me and what I want to do with my life moving forward. And I think that's a very important thing, to connect with yourself about that. A big thing for me, what I call my meditation, is when I cook. I absolutely love cooking. If you've ever been somebody in my life for a memorable amount of time and I've cooked for you, just know I love you very dearly. I do not cook for somebody unless I love them. And that's why I consider it a form of self-love and self-care to cook for myself. I urge anybody who would like to try this exercise to give themselves a little bit of self-love, to break down and de-seed a pomegranate for yourself. And go through the difficulty that takes. Get your hands stained, get your cutting board stained, but make sure you get each individual seed out of that pomegranate for you. What I like to do some days is just cook in silence, and I don't rush myself. I have complex PTSD, so I have a nervous system I sort of have to rewire and heal. And a big part of getting out of that and getting out of that sort of survival mode is slowing down and not rushing everything like it's life or death, or like everything has to be done. Go, 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 go. So for my meditation throughout the week, I'm not somebody who can sit still. I have to be doing something, and I cook everything from scratch. So even my garlic, I have to peel. I will just sit down in silence and peel my garlic at a rate that's reasonable, that's calm. I will chop up all my vegetables and not have anything on in the background, not have any music, just the silence and me cooking. I think cooking is a deep way to show love to yourself and others. I reflect on the people that I left behind in 2025. There's some people that you just have to come to terms with, like, you can't love anybody better. I had to learn that the hard way about my mother. That no matter how much I loved her and how much I wanted her to have a better life, I could not love her better. That is something she has to do herself. And I also had to put me first, and I had to pick me and do what was best for me and my family. I know for the people familiar with the character, with the alias of John Doe, and who I've discussed on my YouTube channel, I learned that I don't have to forgive everybody, because sometimes forgiveness is betraying yourself. Because I quickly found out that this person, John Doe, who was in my life during the coma situation and then came back into my life, was never going to do right by me. That 3 years can pass and they can go through all this assumed self-development. We both can. And yet nothing has changed. And yet somebody can still leave you and abandon you, and they can give you their word, which talk is cheap, actions over words. And it means nothing. And some people like that, you just can't forgive, or you're betraying yourself. You have to put up that sort of safety wall. It was like a sudden realization all throughout the year about everything with my mom, about everything with my family, about everything I didn't know or I was lied to about from people, and about with John Doe. Just like, I know for a long time I was very down on myself about this stuff with the coma. And I thought John Doe had just left me behind and everything because something was wrong with me, or I didn't do things right, or I didn't explain my situation well enough. But 2025 showed me that no matter how well I articulated myself, no matter what I did in that situation, this person, no matter what, would have just left me in the worst straits imaginable, for their own benefit. And it was not that I wasn't a good enough person at the age of 19. It's not that I could have explained my situation better, that I could have asked them to keep me safe better, or done something to modulate the way that I have a conversation with them that would have given me safety. This person was just not a safe person and constantly abandons themselves, and therefore constantly abandons other people. However you treat yourself is going to be how you treat other people. And if this person can't even show up for themselves, they're definitely not going to show up for you. And even their word means nothing. I don't know if everybody feels this way, but I feel like somebody were, if even their word has no value, then they're just not a very good person. And you need to stay as far away from them as possible, because when you strip everything from a person, all they really have is their word and the actions that are behind it. And if their actions don't back it up, then you don't even have their word. Word is bond. And I lost some friends during it too. I think that was a moment where I didn't have to look at them and see what they did wrong. I had to look at myself and see what I did wrong. And see how I was starting to treat people because of all the stuff I had been through, and the lack of unpacking it, and the lack of self-awareness, and the lack of self-accountability, where everybody has a limit, and people might want to help you, but if you're not going to help yourself, they're not going to exhaust themselves and jump through hoops to regulate you. You got to be able to do that yourself. And you might lose people forever that were really good people because of that, because of the toxicity that comes with being raised in a toxic environment. that comes with being abused, and what it teaches you, and how you look at yourself and how you look at the world and how you regulate your emotions. You know, I was going through a lot and I was in a lot of pain, but that didn't give me an excuse to sort of offload that all onto other people to carry. Not in the sense that I was like being a bully or anything. I don't know what to say. It's just like I was just being too much. I was going through too much and I couldn't regulate it, and I was offloading it onto other people. And if it was too much for me, you know, how is it going to be any less for them? And, you know, they made their decisions of choosing themselves first. They made the proper decisions and left. And I just remember being so angry and lost in all of these emotions of what was going on already. And then now, like, losing these people and just, like, losing my mind. Very much felt like losing my mind. And I just kind of got lost in the sauce of it all and just was a very angry person. You know, I've been a very down person and a very sad person after everything I went through, but it felt like that was the first time in a long time, besides like being a teenager, that I just felt so angry at everything and the world and myself, and you just kind of drown in it. And I was just like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Like, I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to hurt myself. And I just want to be happy. You know, these people were like my best friends. And I was not kind to them in the way that I should have been. And that's something I have to live with, you know? That's on me to learn and grow from. And it has taught me some very important lessons that have gotten me to some very bright points in my life. So, you know, you try to always find the silver lining in the lesson that you can try to find meaning in a lesson in your own suffering, or even in the suffering of others, and apply it to yourself. Don't just, woe is me. At some point, you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself. At some point, you have to stop having like a victim complex, and just take your life in your own hands. And it might seem hard, and it might seem impossible, and it might seem like the world is so bleak, but that's all it really comes down to. You know, I think there's a quote out there that's like, stupid people overcomplicate things, but geniuses revel in the simplicity of something. Something like that. And I think we do. We all just overcomplicate things when it really is just that simple. Now, are some things hard? Yes, they hurt. But we have to go through them and develop like a fine wine. I think I am trying to heal from everything. And I like to believe one day I will be so far removed and healed from everything that's happened to me that I won't hold anger towards people anymore, that I can just forgive people, that I can just not reflect on any of it and just stay in the present. Not put all my eggs in the basket of the future and not be trapped by the shadow of the past and just be in the present. That's my hope. The quote that I often reflect on is, what punishments of God are not gifts? You know, it's a gift to exist, and existence comes with suffering, and there's no escaping that. And suffering is a gift because it allows you to connect with others' loss and love more deeply and understand what it's like to be human. I want to be able to get to a point one day in my life where I am so healed and I am so happy and fulfilled with my life that I can look back at all the suffering that I've gone through. And see it as a gift, because if I didn't, I would never gotten to that point. And I think I'm on a pretty steady road to that, because I'm very happy in my current life. I'm very happy. And I know that I would never have been able to get to this point if I didn't go through everything that I've gone through in the last 23 years. You know, I will complete One Way Lane, but I'm going to be on hiatus for a bit as I have to move with the waves of life right now. I want to say to anybody watching this, wherever you are, whatever time it is, you know, good morning, good evening, and good night.